Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. All right, when we last left our heroes, we had almost finished the song, but I had to leave for lunch. And after that, my back was hurting terribly, so I went out and bought a new chair that is quite comfortable. So let's see if we can figure out where we left off yesterday, get this track finished up, and then move on to the next one. Alright, so it looks like we left off at this interlude right before the big section. Lots of hat work here, so I'll go ahead and start my slip editing and just make sure that we are in line for our first... Well, let me get my tracks lined up here where I can see better. For this interlude, I want to focus on my kick, my snare, top, and the hats in particular. Looks like the first kick transient's in place, so we'll go ahead and start right here and start getting these hats and snare hits lined up. Looking fairly good after that first nudge. Get this mic moved a little bit closer. It is... What is up, Will? Oh, why is my Stream Ninja not working? Let me get that turned on. Wonder if I have to reload that now. Let me see if I can get my live chat overlay working here. Okay, it's working now. Good deal. All right, sorry for the detour there. Just had to make sure that I didn't have my Social Stream Ninja plugin loading, and it makes doing things like this so much easier. Oh, how I miss the paperclip. Good old Clippy. I'll finish up this interlude real quick, and then we'll go back to the beginning and review our work in progress, because I've kind of got to familiarize myself with what's been done. I cannot tell you how much my back appreciates this new chair. I was just using a plain old stool that I got from the clinic I used to work for, and it was comfortable, but I found that without having a back, I had a tendency to continue to slip more and more forward, and it's just really caused a few issues back there. But I got this chair with a low back because I have a low back, but I hate having a visible chair behind me on frame and camera too. But this worked out nice. I also hate that the last nice chair that I bought, I think I paid about $600 for it because of that whole concept of not skimping on things that separate you from the earth, because they really do make a difference. But I discovered that I never want to spend that much on a chair again, at least not if it's covered with leather or fake leather, or even real leather. I guess just over time, those things tend to flake, and I was very upset with how short of a time that chair lasted. I think I had it for about a year and a half. I ended up just giving it away to somebody that could use it because I was so frustrated. Like, I did all the leather conditioning and everything, and it still just started flaking, peeling, and all that stuff. So this time I decided I would get either either a mesh or a cloth covered chair. And I found a pretty nice cloth one at Office Max for like $79 on sale. And I cannot say enough, like, it has definitely made a huge difference even in just the less than 24 hours that I've had it. My back is happy. I'll try to not keep talking about my back for the whole stream. I want to try to get this song finished, and then I've got one more, and that will give the guys everything that they need for the EP release, which is pretty cool. Really, it's really nice to just be a musician in this band and not have to be the whole engineer and everything. I mean, yes, I'm doing my own drum stuff, but that's because I can, and I prefer this to having programmed drums. It just has a much better feel to it. A little push-pull there on the hats, so we'll get that in line. And we are almost to that verse. That needs to slip a bit. All right, so let's run from the front up until this section. Didn't mean to hit that button. And this is not the actual mix, so I mean, it is what it is. I've got my drum stuff in here, and I've got a pre-rendered backing track with a secondary for vocals because they forgot to export that. So it won't necessarily be perfectly balanced, but it's fine. It's good enough to listen to.
Black robes in the desert sun, blood runs where the river once was. Chanting locusts fill the dust. Night falls, the end has begun. Silver knives tracing skin, sacred wounds to let him mend. Haunting the fire, shadows bend. Smoke rises, let the ritual begin. It's gold, seven goodbye. Strike the bell, drink the wine. It's gold, seven goodbye. Till the band with them in their eyes. It's gold, seven goodbye. Strike the match, burn in the light. It's gold, seven goodbye. Taste the ash, none will survive. Hell rides in a burning earth.
This CMX Micro Shift plugin from Stillwell Audio, this is like instant Peter Steele vocals.
Cut your wrist, chant the curve. Drum beats echo, the bitch gives birth. Pain screams from the valley below. The ground erupts, the fire grows.
Yeah, it's kind of like Typo Negative meets Rob Zombie or something. All right, we are ready for this next section, so let's get to work. Looks like our first transient is ever so slightly off. We'll get that fixed. If memory serves, I think I had a little bit of trouble hearing the click there because of how much louder the music got, but it looks like it's going to be just fine. Got off a little bit at the beginning, but that's why we're fixing stuff. Let's see, you need to pay attention to that ride track too. That's going to be a good one to focus on. Probably going to do a lot more auditioning while editing this time. A lot more than I usually do anyway. It just seems like looks like I was second guessing the tempo a pretty good bit. But it looks like it started to tighten up there, and then I'm drifting again. It's not a whole lot in terms of like how much time I'm drifting, but a whole lot more cutting than I was anticipating. Kind of curious to go ahead and back up a hair and check this so far, even over that little bit. Yeah, it's not sounding bad. Guess we'll just keep at it. Just wanted to make sure that I was making it better and not worse before I sunk too much time into this. Little cut here and get that ride hit back into position. The missus is out for a pretty good bit today, watching the grandkids for a bit, so I've got time to get this done and hopefully get the other one done and just be done with all my drum editing. It's hard to believe it's 2 more days until Christmas. It's like it just crept up on us this year, despite coming at literally the same day every year. Let's see, we got a little bit further to go on this section. Got to keep remembering to glance over at that chat window there. I don't think any of us were. I hate shopping. I mean, it's not just a Christmas thing. I just hate shopping. So I'm glad that my wife does all of that, and I don't have to fool with it. So I'll find out on Christmas what I got everybody because I didn't buy it. I'll tell you, speaking of shopping, one thing that I really hate about shopping this time of year is, well, the traffic. And I love the work that the Salvation Army does. I mean, we can get into all kinds of discussions about what truly happens with the money, but they do some good things for some people who need it. But I hate feeling like I'm being harassed during the holidays when they're standing in front of the door. And it's not that the person's even really doing anything wrong or bad. I just don't want to be bothered. I'm just trying to get in the store, get my little bit of groceries or whatever, and get out. So I'm really appreciating Aldi because the Salvation Army does not set up in front of Aldi like they do in front of Kroger. Aldi also has better cheese. This is not a sponsored comment, but if Aldi wants to sponsor the channel, I will sing your praises for your cheese and coffee. Wanchus, you are here to secretly judge me for crappy drum recordings. I can already hear it. Welcome aboard, man. It's good to see you here. Dangerously close to finishing up this section, and I'm very curious to see if this has made it better or worse. I think it's going to be better, but not a whole lot of movement is needed. It was a fairly solid tracking session. Have I told you guys about this chair? It's the little things in life, really. That's where I feel like I spent so much time yesterday just doing weird stretches and trying to feel better. I had posted in Discord this morning about that new vocal tuner, and I'm very curious to give it a try. It's not something that I necessarily need, but I just like trying out that stuff. I'm kind of curious to find something that doesn't add so much of that synth-like effect. I really like the end result of Synchro Arts repitch, but hate the problems that it has with sample rate differences when you go to render because it ends up sounding like the singer was doing butane in the vocal booth. Unless you freeze it first. If I freeze it directly in the session, it exports just fine, but if I try to allow the plugin to export with the mix, it glitches. And I've got a ticket in with SynchroArts that they said they were aware of it and were working on it, and then all of a sudden they put out a whole new version that costs money that probably still doesn't fix it. All right, let's see how this section sounds now. We'll go back just a little bit. I heard a snare fill in there that I didn't like. I need to find it. Maybe it right there. Let me switch to a finer grid. And I don't know that I'll be able to safely get this one, but I want to try. Looking at this, and it kind of threw me for a loop because it didn't look like I edited anything, but it looks like I was actually fairly decent on the time. Well, fairly decent. Now I see something that's off, which means now I've got to move the rest of it. I don't know, I feel like I just accidentally skipped this section for some reason. Yeah, I'm guessing maybe I just got ahead of myself and totally missed this part. That's a huge crossfade right there. Yeah, how did I miss that whole section? That's weird. Let's try this again. Now that's weird, Wanchus. I saw that you had a question and then it disappeared. Now you got me curious. What were you asking? Don't leave me hanging. I gotta know. Excuse me. All right, let me try this section again. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. that section sounds pretty good to me. I'll go through it with more of a fine-tooth comb a bit later and just make sure that I don't have any glaring mistakes. Listening to it in context, it sounded fine, but I still like to review it in solo and just make sure to clean up any mistakes that I may have missed. I think I want to go back to my eighth note grid there. So what I'm looking at, this lower track, that's my ride mic, and I'm just wanting to make sure that those ride transients are pretty good, since that's what I would consider the primary instrument during this part, or the most prominent thing. We're in the home stretch. I'm curious, Will, have you played with the new leveler in Infinistrip? I need to read the manual on that, but I'm kind of curious to try it on these vocals, at least for this purpose, just to see if it will. I think it's supposed to be like a gain writer of sorts. But I mean, admittedly, I kind of did like Whitesea and just tried to use it without actually reading, and I had a hard time making sense of it. Yeah, same. I think I'll play with that a bit more later. When the new plugins or the new things that they've added, I wouldn't say that they were like life-changing features. But I mean, being able to get it updated for as cheap as we were able to, you know. So they added Hummer. I don't remember if that was in there before, but let's see. Levelizer, Snap Forger. No, I think it's just these five. The Levelizer, Snap Forger, Tilt EQ, Enhancer, and Big Bass. The Levelizer is somewhat of a, like I said, a gain writer of sorts. Let's see. What does the tooltip say? Adjust the target level of the audio signal. And then this is the range of the auto gain slider action. So, okay, so I can set a gain, I can set a target and how much I'll allow it to go up and down. And then this will just run automatically. Let's see if it's on auto. Engages auto fader mode. Soft range limit mode. And peak detect fader movement mode. Then we've got this floor. Yeah, I'll have to read through that for sure. Some of the other things it's added is this Snap Forger, which is like a transient shaper. And this was I played around with this on a snare drum, and of course, it is a transient shaper. It works as advertised. Tilt EQ. Don't know why this was a big deal to add, but it's in there. Gotta go get bread. Oh, that's weird. Your name just changed in here. That's what's up. Having us playing in the grocery store. This enhancer. I'll have to read more on that. I mean, let's see, low frequency range, upward compression ratio. So upward compression, but split frequency. I guess that's what that is, or you can link it. And then big bass, which does what it says. Yeah, I'll definitely read up on those a bit more later. Just wanted to take a quick peek at it. This is a good day for tacos. Of course, when is it not a good day for tacos? Uh-oh. See, that's interesting because, like, I've got YouTube Premium, but it bridges over to all of my accounts. I think that, like, I created brand accounts, so they're still tied to my same email address. I don't know how people deal with ads on YouTube. I hear they're pretty frequent, but I think I watch YouTube more than any other streaming service that I pay for. That's what's up. Yeah, Wanchus, when you come back, bring us some tacos. It's interesting, like how little TV or actual shows we watch anymore. I think the bulk of what I watch is uh, educational or hobby related stuff on YouTube. Like we pay for Netflix and Amazon Prime. We've got Disney Plus that my daughter left on the TV, but I'm not paying for it. And of course, we've got Tubi and all that stuff, which is free. But out of all the things that we've got, just the random content on YouTube seems to be the most interesting anymore. I did enjoy the first episode of season 2 of Fallout, so I'm looking forward to the remaining episodes of that, and I hope that they don't destroy this season. I was disappointed with this season of Stranger Things, but I'm going to finish it because I'm halfway in there. May as well finish the story, since we invested so much of our lives into watching the crap. I loved the first season. The second season was a letdown, and it was like a steady downhill for me after that. See, just what you got to do is just leave it playing at home on the other account that plays ads, because that's how I afford tacos. Just let it play. Wonder how that works if the well, I guess it's just from them paying for YouTube, so you get a few extra cents for it. I don't know. I've done so little with my YouTube account this year as far as making content that I mean, I'm always surprised when I still get any kind of revenue from it because I'm like I've not done anything, but people are still consuming the old stuff because dang it, it's useful. I asked this on the stream yesterday and didn't get an answer. Maybe some of you guys can answer for it, but John was saying on Discord that there's some new features coming. It's in pre-release right now, but it may be a while until it's all polished up. But the ability to add effects in specific slots. What is the usefulness for that? I think that, like for me, I typically just add stuff in the order that I want to use them, and if I think about something later that I want to add, I just add it wherever and end up dragging it into the right place. So I guess just the ability to explicitly put stuff in a slot could be a little bit of a time saver, but people are talking like it's a game-changing feature. Like it's just one extra click for me to drag something. I appreciate that. Tyler, is it Tyler or Taylor? I guess it's Tyler because there's no A in it, but then again, one of us is dyslexic. I appreciate that. It's just a matter of having something that's interesting to do. I don't do YouTube as a source of income, and for a while, it seemed like there was new features and new things getting added all the time. So I took great pride in being the first to do a video on the swipe comping, and showing a lot of stuff on how to utilize the fixed lanes and everything. But there's just not been a whole lot of stuff happening to show anything that hasn't been done, which is why I've just kind of been laying low. There's not been any amazing plugins I felt like I had to show. There's not been a whole lot of new developments that were things that would change my life. But that may change in the next year. We'll just there's some interesting things that I'm seeing in development that I'm curious about, particularly with community created plugins and scripts and everything. There's a new guy on Facebook who has started putting stuff in the forum as well. Let me pull that up onto my other window here. That I'm kind of curious to check out some of his or her content. I wonder if they're ever going to, like, they created a YouTube channel, but there's currently no content in it. Let's see here. This guy, Punchy Pum, or however you say it, but he created this analog molecule, which is something like a summing engine or a summing, whatever the right word is, for Reaper that's made in JSFX. That user reports are saying that it's fantastic, but it's very CPU heavy. I may try that a bit later and see how it sounds. But you put it on literally all of your channels or your tracks, and you make sure to set each one as to whether it's a discrete track, a bus, or a master for the master channel. And all of the instances talk to each other and create some interplay that's supposed to very closely mimic the behavior of analog stuffs. I'll toss this link in the chat for anybody that wants to check it out. I've not done it yet. He shows some pictures on Facebook of it and everything, and hopefully he will put together a channel or put some content on his channel pretty soon to show it in action, or maybe that can be the return to form for old YouTubers that haven't made anything in a while. Kind of surprised no one's beat me to it yet. It's just like that vocal processor that I saw this morning. I look on YouTube, and the only content that I can see on it is from the plugin developer. I saw a ton of commentary on Gearspace about it. Let's see, I got a question. Let's see what we got here. What's the best process to make cymbals feel natural when tab to transient drum grid aligning like you're doing? Well, I'm not doing tab to transient, and I'm actually just eyeballing it and cutting where I see something that needs to be shifted just a little bit beforehand. The one thing that you'll want to be sure of with cymbals, and let me see if I can get one of my overhead tracks up here, is paying close attention to where that crossfade is to make sure that you're not in the middle of a transient uh, for the cymbal attack. And you want to find as close as possible to a zero crossing here. So I can move this crossfade. Now, this close, it's hard to see, but I can move this crossfade, and I want to try to get as small of a waveform as humanly possible in there. When I go back and listen to this in solo, I'm listening to what I would call crunchiness. Like you can hear some artifacts if you've got too much data from both sides of the cut inside that crossfade, if that makes sense. We'll go through this in a bit, and if I find an example where that's a problem, it would be a lot easier to show you. But the short answer is trying to make very sure that you don't have too much stuff going on in the middle of a crossfade. So you try to have open areas in the crossfade and a very small crossfade at that. So when you find a spot that does create some artifacts, you can usually fix it by just moving the position of the cut in the crossfade. What am I doing here? Wow, I was way off there. Let me listen to that section. Oh, no, I'm not off. I mean, I am, but... Okay, so that needs to slide forward. I was having trouble figuring out what direction that section needed to go. Me and my tom chops. I don't know, sometimes I have a hard time just keeping a traditional 2 and 4 type of backbeat, and I like to break things up a bit. I think that's what's made this interesting for me. I've never... What got me into playing with this band is I've never really been into doom metal before. I just never paid it any attention, but I did some filming at a local show called Tennessee Metal Devastation Fest and saw a doom metal band that I really liked. And fast forward a little bit, and I see these guys online looking for a drummer. Well, my band is kind of doing nothing right now, so I figured, let me give them a try because that would help me to have some semblance of a creative outlet. Invited them over to have a bit of an audition and made sure that they understood my stance was, let's, if I'm not a good fit, just be sure to tell me that. And well, here we are, still playing. So I like that they're open to my own translations and or interpretations of the music, and I think it's adding a different vibe to it. You know, bringing a very small amount of the math rock flavor to the doom metal. Goodness, this ending is long. We may go back and review a little bit of this just to break up the monotony of me clicking and talking and not letting you hear any music. But ideally, like if I'm not narrating and I'm just trying to get done with something, that is what I do. Is I just usually I'm listening to something else, just some kind of relaxation music or something, and I'm just going through, just trying to get done. Yeah, let's review up to this point from that chorus. Heard a glitch. At least I think I did. Right here. So, Zach, maybe we can figure this one out. First, I got to determine which instrument it was on so I can see. I mean, I know it's on the drums, but... let's see. Why did I make a cut there? Let's try here. Okay, so in that case, I hope that... I know that was really quick, but let me undo this and make sure that you're able to hear the glitch. So, Zach, if you're still here, once we cross over this line right here, that's where you should hear a weird click. So I can't see where that is. I wish that I could, so I could demonstrate it even better. It's so much easier if you can see what's causing it. I'm guessing it's just something in these symbols somewhere, but I'm just going to move this crossfade a bit to the right. And it's gone. So somewhere there was something inside of that crossfade that was causing a problem. That may have been it right there. All right, so let's try finishing up and getting to where we left off here. Unsolo that. Get my snare top and my kick and ride opened up a little bit more for me. And that's one thing too, Zach, is when you're listening, it's really easy to get to a point where you're just enjoying the music, but always, even when you're listening to it in context as well as in solo, listen for artifacts. And as long as you can pinpoint where that is, it's usually just a matter of wiggling that crossfade. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I heard an artifact with the ride symbol right around here. It is very slight. I'm going to try moving this crossfade just a touch. Try that. All right, we are back into unedited territory. So let's start fixing. I hate that I messed that up. really don't want to make this many cuts, but let me see what I can do here. Yeah, that worked actually. So that ride hit down there is ever so slightly off. But the bell on that ride is so prominent. I want to make sure those pings are good. What you buying? Oh wait, you said you were going to buy bread. Are you letting the whole grocery store listen to me? I suspect that cut right there may cause a bit of a problem because of that ride info, but we'll see. It may be masked by the music. And sometimes, quite honestly, you just have to split the difference. Like there will be some things that you may hear in solo, but you won't in context. So you have to kind of just find the best of both worlds, depending on how many things are being hit at any given time. In a lot of cases, you'll have an audible artifact free edit, and then again, sometimes you have to cover things up with music and maybe some saturation or other processing. Banana bread. What do I want to do for lunch? You know what? I've not even had breakfast today. I guess I should probably eat at some point, but I want to finish this. Yeah, I think I may finish this and then go get something to eat and then maybe do another stream later to get the last song. So I think some people would, if you've not watched the other streams that I've done over the past few days, you missed the phase alignment part. So definitely recommend watching yesterday's where I cover, where I cover phase aligning each of my takes before I start comping. There is a relatively newish tool built into Reaper to handle your phase alignment for multi-mic instruments. And I think that the way that I do mine is probably a little bit different from some other people. I could be wrong, but I don't align absolutely everything. I just align the things that are definitely related to each other. For example, I align the snare top and bottom, I align the overhead left and right, and I align the room left and right. Not to each other, but to themselves, because like the room mics, for example, will not be, I mean, the snare transient is not going to hit the room mics at the same time as the direct mics or the overheads. So they should be aligned with themselves, but not necessarily each other because they are spaced out. Yeah, I use it. I've got it up here in my toolbar for phase alignment. Let me open up another project tab here. If I can read. Oh my gosh. Open project. There we go. In new project tab. What's the one that's left that I've got to do? Glass eye. I've not done yet. New project tab. So this one, for example, I've only got 2 takes. I don't know why this is numbered wrong. I think I had some partials in there and I deleted. But let's say, for example, my snare top and bottom. That's my first thing. So I'll take I need to turn off my grouping first. So I'll grab my snare top and I'll control click my snare bottom. Hit the phase align, and you can see the snare top, which is the first one that I clicked, is listed as the reference, and the bottom is what's going to be aligned. I have it checked marked to adjust the contents, so it's slip editing and not moving the boundaries of the waveform. And I have it check marked to allow inverting phase and adjust the items together. So I'll calculate first, and you can see my snare bottom is 2.4 milliseconds off, and it needs to have the phase inverted. So I'll apply that, and that's done. Now I'll do the same thing to my second take. Timing should be the same because nothing's moved. And apply. So that's done. Uh-oh. Wanchus has got some science. Go ahead and school me as soon as you get a chance. I am happy to hear about it. I don't know if my method is technically sound, but it works for me. And I just think about it again in terms of how things are not like the mics across the room. There's no way in expletive that the waveform would hit at the same time. So now I'll get my overhead hat side. I don't name them left and right. I just call them hat or ride side. Calculate those, and my overheads are pretty good. They are 0.3 milliseconds off. So I'll apply that. I'll do the same for the second take. What does that say? Overlap. And finally, I'll do the same thing to my room mics. And again, my reasoning for doing it this way is because of the spatial arrangement. 3.2 milliseconds on my room mics. And once I've got my phase alignment done in that manner, I'll re-enable my grouping. We'll go back up to my first track. We'll right-click one of my fixed lanes and create the comp lane. And then I'll start doing my comping there. I'll go ahead and save that because I'm not going to work on that project right now. And let's get back and finish this one up. Yeah, that works really well and is a whole lot less expensive versus the tools from either Melda or SoundRadix. I don't know if one is more or less accurate than the other, but it sounds good to my ear. I mean, I don't see any problem with it, and the GUI doesn't bother me. A lot of people would actually pay extra money just for the look of the plugin, but I don't. Well, now, in some cases, I can see that if it becomes a workflow issue, but I mean, I'm literally just clicking a tool to have it slip edit a waveform for me, and it does the job. I have a feeling that Wanchus is going to start a new discussion in the educators section on the Discord server. I really want to know what you got to say on it, though, because Wanchus is a bit of an audio scientist, and I learn a lot from him. I'm always looking for ways to improve my workflows, and even if it's not necessarily improving my workflow, I just want to understand. I hope that I've given you an idea for your next video, Wanchus, so you can explain in great detail with proper visual references and all that stuff. Wanted to spot check that because some of the waveforms didn't look right to me. So with Melda and with the SoundRadix stuff, I think my understanding is you put it on all of the tracks, and I think I even own it. Matter of fact, let me look real quick. No, I've got dynamic EQ and drum leveler. I thought that I had their alignment tool. Maybe I test drove it one time. But when you plugins like the Melda one and also the Sound Radix, I've often seen videos where they will just put it on all the channels and run it, and it just aligns everything. But like I said, that doesn't make sense to me for everything to be aligned. So I'm not arguing. I'm very curious to get your full take on it when you have a minute to put that in our Discord chat. But definitely consider making a video on the topic because it's something that needs to be talked about. Hey, we're on the last two. And that's what I like is when you can get to rambling and then almost be done with the song. So they essentially do the same tools but maybe have a better detection circuit. And how does it handle the alignment of everything when you're putting it on all the channels? I suppose I could watch one of their tutorial videos. All that stuff's interesting though, because it's like we look at all the plugins and things that are available now and talk about them like these are things that you have to have. But then we go back and look at some recordings from years past that have stood the test of time and they had no such tools and still managed to do okay. So I'm not negating the tools or their usefulness, but I am saying that you often don't have to spend a lot of money to get a decent sounding recording. But I'm also not a professional. Let me switch my grid to eighth notes. I think that may be throwing me. I had it on 16ths and I'm paying attention to too many things. It's just like with this, I could just use the automatic thing to use transient detection and dynamic split and then quantize, but I like it better when it's done by my hand. I know it's not going to be exactly on the grid, but it leaves it with just enough variance to still feel good. Very small margin of error. Because I always want to keep the humanity in here. And I also don't want this to ever end up sounding like something that I can't actually play. So these gentle nudges I don't feel like are destroying my playing at all. Look, we're at the end of the song. We made it, people. We have almost earned our lunch. And the rest of that can probably, I think it's just my ambience. So let's check out this last section. Actually, let's just start from the front and see what happens. That'll be more fun. Make it a surprise.
like robes in the desert sun. Blood runs where the river once was. Chanting locusts fill the dust. Night falls, the end has begun. Silver knives tracing skin. Sacred wounds to let him in. Horns in the fire, shadows grin. Smoke rises, let the ritual begin. Witch goes 75. Strike the bell, drink the wine. Witch goes 75. Till the back with hell in their eyes. Witch goes 75. Strike the match, burn in alive. Witch goes 75. Taste the ash, none will survive. Hell rides in a burning hearse, veil torn from heaven and earth. Cut your wrist, chant the curse. Drum beats echo, the bitch gives birth. Pain screams from the valley below. The ground erupts, the fire grows. Satan lies, he already knows. Your fate was sealed long ago. Witch goes 75. Strike the bell, drink the wine. Witch goes 75. Till the back with hell in their eyes. Witch goes 75. Strike the match, burning alive. Witch goes 75. Taste the ash, none will survive.
This is sounding pretty good to me. See you, Dobby. Thanks for stopping by. If I had to take a guess on it, I would guess it's probably the rooms, because I just had them setting at Unity. And, well, let's play for a minute. Here's rooms. Yeah, I think it's the room balance, because I noticed the ride side, when the kick hits, is boosted just a touch. So let's see. And let's see, mute the overheads. Do you want me to play just the kit with the overheads muted? Am I understanding that correctly? Well, let's just test it anyways. I think it's going to be the rooms, but... Now, I have turned down the room on the right side. Did that sound better or worse? Let me introduce the overheads now. Actually, let's just solo the overheads for a sec. Yeah, the rooms were muted that last pass. I'll mute them again, and I'm just going to let it play and watch the chat. Rooms are muted. Oh wait, I've got a reverb plug-in on the snare. Maybe that. Let's try now. This is again with rooms muted. We'll bring the rooms back in. Oops. Let's see, where might some of that... now you got me curious, though. Let's see. I doubt it's the snares. But those are all centered. Let's check the toms tracks. Barely hearing the kick in the toms. I've got an expander on those instead of a gate. Try the cymbals bus. There's a very small amount of a kick in there, but I don't know that that's it. Probably those rooms is my best guess. But I did turn down that right side. But we got a question. What we got here? After you're done with the comp, do you move items around within the comp, or do you create a copy of the comp for making additional edits? In most cases, how do I word this? I typically just have one comp. I don't start editing until I'm sure on the comp. Now, in some occasions, I may do a slip edit and find that a piece doesn't work, at which point I may pull in a different thing, but very rarely, if ever, have done more than one comp. But I mean, you can make as many comps as you'd like. Make changes. When you make changes to items in a comp lane, a small blue bar appears at the bottom, which indicates that it's changed from its original state. I'm not sure. Let's take a look. Let me switch back to comping mode. I don't know that I'm seeing what you mean, though. Oh wait, I see it's tough to see. I do see there's a blue something there, but that looks to be like it's in the center of each of these. I don't know what that necessarily indicates. But I see when I mouse over it, it changes to the comp. What is this? I've never seen this before. I think you may have discovered a feature that I have no clue what it is, but I noticed that once I click that little blue mark you're talking about, it creates an E1 lane, which I don't know what E means unless that means edit. So perhaps that's I know the C1 is for comping, but E1, maybe that's edit. Not necessarily a bad idea. That way you can have a preserved comp and then a dedicated editing lane. I'll see what I can find on that, but thank you for pointing that out. I've literally never noticed that, and I guess it's because that blue, it's depending on the color of your item, and plus you also have to be in comping mode for it to show up. Oh, but it doesn't even show up, though, unless... well, let's take a look at the end, because I didn't slip edit the last part, since that's freeform. And that marker still shows up here on an unedited part. Well, I say unedited, but I also have to consider that once I made a cut upstream, it still shifted the stuff downstream until I made another cut, so that actually has been edited. So let's play. We will comp in this piece here. That has not been edited yet, so let's slip edit it. And yeah, you are correct. As soon as I move that marker seems to indicate that item has changed. Learned something new today. Good find. So I guess the alternate workflow for that would be to drop all that stuff into a different lane for the edit. Makes sense. I just have never used it that way. Did I finish this? Let's hit this last little bit and see how this ends up. But see, now you've got me curious. Let's park here for a second and play. Comping. Comp into new empty lane. Allow editing source media while comping, which I don't want. Duplicate into new lane. I wonder, how do you get all of that into a new editing lane? What if I copy edited media items to new lane and recomp? Yeah, I'd like to read into that more, because I can see where it might be handy just to preserve the comp before editing. It's not bit me yet, but it doesn't mean it can't. Yeah, that makes really good sense. Much how in the same way, like I prefer using fixed item lanes instead of the old takes method, because my original takes down here are completely as recorded and untouched. But it makes me wonder, how do you get that whole thing to an edit lane easily? I'm looking up edit lane to see if that shows up in actions here. Yeah, it makes me wonder what the intended workflow was for that, because it's a bit of a nuisance to have to click that blue dot for everyone to get it down there. I know that I can just duplicate the lane and then rename it as E1 or something, but the fact that it's got, let's see here, duplicate items to new lane. Let's try that. And it just made a C1 star. Just the fact that clicking on that brings up a lane that's already got that E letter on it is kind of what I'm trying to access at a higher level, because that's just one less step. Because that E, I mean, like just like with C, that suggests comp, and E suggests edit. How do you do that? Comp into new copy of this lane. Comp in a new empty lane automatically. No, I got nothing. But we'll have to figure that out. Do I want to try some of this? Let's take a listen to this one, since Witch Cult is pretty close to done. This one was a tough one for me, and I don't know if I even like any of my performance on it. think I may have played a little too quiet on this. Alright, let's play for a minute. Let's try some sections. I'm just arbitrarily picking sections to try. I didn't hear anything wrong with that last take. Now right there, I want to go back to the other take because I had a stronger snare hit coming out of the gate. I see some extra snare activity here, so I want to see what it is. I'll leave the other one. think that was a good choice right there. Okay, I'm not hearing anything that's wrong with this take, but I just want to experiment in some places where it looks like I may have had a little more activity. Preferred drum mic setup for overheads. I like spaced pair. XY is XY. If you set it up right, is a lot easier. But I like the perceived width that I get from the spaced pair, so I get a lot better separation of my left and right sides of the kit. I've not tried Recorder Man. I think ORTF was the one that I had done before I switched to Space Pair. I think that the internet had me convinced that Space Pair took an act of God to get right, but I've been really pleased with the results that I'm getting. Sorry, I just had to check a text message from the missus there. Ooh, that was bad right there, so we definitely want to fix that with the other take. Solid take. I want to see what I did here different on the other take, though. This would be a lot easier if I just turned off that snapping. There we go. Nope. Right in the middle of a crash. Let's try forward a little bit. Maybe a little bit further back, because I'm kind of curious to see what was going on there. Maybe right there. Nudge that back just a hair. Okay, nudge it forward just a hair. It's a little off time, so I'll just have to deal with it for now. Heck yeah, that is a nice fill right there. Get that kick in place. Check another section here. And I don't like my performance up until this point. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I'm mainly digging that end part there. So let's get that up to the next kick transient. I see some more activity here, so I want to try it. Yeah, I like that better. Let's see, what do we got here? I have not even tried it yet. I usually just kind of put my stuff in a certain order. But heck, I don't even know how I would pin this. How do you pin a track? Maybe I've got it turned off. I remember seeing something. Oh, right there, pin track to top of range view. Yeah, I guess that could be handy for drum editing. So like if I was wanting to focus on my snare and then a few toms like I'd been doing, let me just try this and see what happens. And then when I unpin it, does it go right back? So let's do snare top, kick, tom 1. Thank you, Voodoo Chili. Almost said Voodoo Chow. I think that is my new favorite because that really helps a lot for drum editing. So now I've got my primary focus just right there. You are winning today. The fun part of doing this stuff is like once I create a comp, then I go back and learn the song that way. So I like that. I don't know if I like my cymbal grabs there, so let me try the other way. That sounded better on this one. I've only got 2 to pick from, so. Yeah, that is pretty handy. Sometimes I just need somebody to show me a good use case scenario for a feature before it clicks. I like that there where I went from that straight fill into a swing vibe. One thing that's important to understand about this is I had not previously written for these songs before I recorded. I mean, I had a pretty rough idea what I wanted to do, but I haven't been with the band that long. So doing these variations like this and comping will help me to solidify what I actually want to play. And I think that was a good move, switching from straight to that swing. That just felt really good. looks like we're going mostly with that second take with a few instances of the first take in there. What's going on? Got the gang all here. Thank you for your comment the other day, by the way. I think that came out pretty good as being a comp just made from 2 takes. I thought that I sucked when I played that Sunday, but that felt pretty good. So, Voodoo, I believe you were saying what you would do is duplicate this to a new lane? And then maybe rename that E1 for Edit 1. Can I move this lane up? Yep, move items up. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Let me undo that. Okay, I can just drag them. So I'm going to try it that way like you were talking about. So now I've got my E1 for my edit. I've got my C1 for my comp, and that's preserved. Everything's rocking off of that lane. And I think I want to start after the boring part. Well, I wouldn't say it's boring, but it's I think I want to start after things have built up a bit. I'll go back and fine tune that stuff later because that's probably a boring video. So we'll start right about there. Get into our slip editing mode. I'm definitely liking this pen feature. Thank you for bringing that up. That is, see, we can always learn something. I think I want to rearrange these though. Let's put my kick. Oh, I can't. Can I move that above? I guess once they're pinned, they're just pinned. It's fine though. So I know where my kick is. Kick is right there. And yeah, we'll start there and we'll just edit from that. How have I not tried this before today? This is great. Oh, wait a second. Let's see. Am I playing straight here? Okay, 6/8. So something that I found the other day that, well, let's see. Let me see if the eighth note triplets works for this. It may take me a second to figure out my grid for this. The other day, I had to make some changes to my time sig and grid to make things match up a bit better. So let's see how this works. Okay, so I can still keep this. Yeah, I could probably do that. I don't know that it's worth the hassle versus me just remembering that this one is the kick. Path of least resistance in this case. Yeah, so leaving that in 3/4 time and just switching to eighth note triplets helps me with this swing time feel. The flubbed triplet there, but we'll make it work. Yeah, I'm curious to figure it out, but I would probably spend more time figuring it out than just, like I said, looking at it and realizing that it's in the same order that the stuff's normally in anyways. Because typically I've got these 3 lanes expanded, but just further down with more stuff in between. Right. Path of least resistance. I can tell those triplet attempts are going to cause me some grief. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, this is quite handy having that separate editing lane. It's a little thing, and I likely will never have to go back and revisit a comp. But as soon as I say that, something's going to happen. You know how life does. Life be lifing. I'll get a little bit of progress on this, and then I think I need to go get myself some breakfast. But I got a little excited listening to my performance here, thinking this song didn't come out as bad as I thought it did, so it made me want to do more. Oh, that's good to know as well. I know that when I set up YouTube for streaming, it gives me some different latency options, but I had no clue how much of a delay there actually is because I can't see it from your side. So I've got some toms to fool with there, which I'll find that when I'm in more detailed editing. Such wide open spaces in this. Move that over to give me a little bit more real estate. Boop. Is one nice thing though about having such wide open spaces like that is you don't have much in the way of symbol wash to glitch on your slip edits. My sloppy kicks actually sound pretty nice. I swear I was having like foot spasms on the right side Sunday. But I don't mind a little bit of slop in here. Just call it analog flavor or something like that. Those guitars sound so nasty. In a good way. I got to be really careful to watch for when this shifts to 4/4 time, because otherwise I'll leave my grid on eighth note triplets and end up butchering a whole section. Yeah, this song shifts from 3/4 to 4/4 a few times. And it's not any kind of gradual thing, it's just a sudden. So I'm glad that I had the vocalist over at the house while I was tracking to help me know for sure when, excuse me, know for sure when the next section was coming up. How much longer we got? Okay, we're almost there. All right, slide that. Get this next section into place. And let's review this section, and then I'm going to go get some lunch. The best part's unedited, but we'll get there. That's kind of nasty right there. Let's fix it. So I think probably the best way to fix this is switch back to comping mode. And let's take a bit of this with us. Something sounded funny there. Oh, I know what sounded funny. Or do I? Let's see. See, I'm so used to doing this with the whole comp thing going. You turn off comping mode and just, well, no, that doesn't work. Oh, wow. Seriously? Okay, there. I think I just messed up a lot. I'm not used to doing it this way, and I think I probably butchered something. That's working, though. I think when I switched it to comping mode, I messed something up. Okay, that will work. Just need to get the rest of this lined up now. Yeah, that works. Okay, I know I said I was going to eat, but now I want to do a little bit more, so let's try. I think I was primarily on the right on this section, so I'll probably have to go back and make some further edits to make sure those pings are hitting where they need to. Yeah, I've been streaming for... In 10 seconds will be exactly 2 hours. Those toms sound absolutely massive. A handful of issues there. Wanted to make sure that that transition into the other take was solid before proceeding, since we had that issue last time. Okay, I will finish this verse, and then I will definitely go and get myself some lunch. Well, take the dog out, and then we'll get us both some lunch. Why don't we share today? Little known fact, Bell Dog likes whatever I'm eating. Usually. Seems like this should be a pretty quick edit with so much wide open space, but like I said, I need to go back and make sure that my rides are good. As a general rule, I'm fairly in time with myself, so even when I'm off, I think that those, as I slip edit these little parts, the rest should line up just fine. Same as before, I got to keep my eye on the region marker up there to make sure that I'm not still on the wrong grid once I hit the 3-4 section. And that's the 3-4 section coming up, so we'll slide that crossfade, get the first kick transient in place, and let's review our work and then go eat. Alright, well that has got me where I need to be for the time being, so thank you guys and girls for checking in with me today. About to go get lunch for myself and the dog, and we'll catch you next time. Have a great day, and Merry Christmas to you. And stop streaming OBS. You're not supposed